When it came out, Logic Pro for iPad seemed like the holy grail. You have the full power of a digital audio workstation in your iPad. You have a bunch of sounds, bunch of presets, bunch of instruments, bunch of samples. You can run them in your nice little iPad, and you have all the nice things coming from having touchscreen, the Apple Pencil, and just a very portable device. And in my opinion, it's just nicer to use an iPad than to use a computer. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But too long didn't read. In theory, it looks amazing, but in practice, it isn't. You see, the first problem I encountered was the dangle situation. If you're gonna use Logic Pro, you're gonna wanna use an audio interface, you're gonna wanna use a MIDI controller, and then the sleek setup is not that sleek anymore. Now you're gonna have the big audio interface, the USB dangle, the MIDI controller, and then it's not that different from using a computer anymore. What I try to do to overcome this challenge is to have an audio interface which is very small. It's a Zoom AMS-44, very sleek, very small, very nice audio interface for these purposes, and I attach it together to a dangle, and then I put an extender cable to it. So it's kind of a separated module from the iPad, and it works quite well. I honestly think it overcomes 80% of the problem with the dangle situation. But then you need to buy the USB dangle, you need to buy the audio interface, and you need to keep them purpose-driven for the iPad, because if you are using them for other purposes, then you need to unplug them from the computer, you need to put them together, and then you need to plug them to the iPad. And when you want it for other reasons, then you need to do the same thing. So then you need to spend like 200-300 euros just for that. So then it becomes a quite big investment, and I don't know if it's actually worth it, because then you also have the problems with the Logic Pro for iPad UI situation. You see, as a summary, I think that interface is primarily done for keyboard and mouse, and then the touchscreen just came as an afterthought. There are many things that you need to navigate, you need to click so many things around, and then it's just kind of cumbersome to use. One thing though that is super nice is the step sequencer. I think that's kind of a game changer when it comes to using it in iPad, because it's so easy to input the notes with touchscreen, and I don't know, it's just a very enjoyable experience, and you can do things very fast. But the thing is that I think that's pretty much the only advantage of Logic Pro for iPad. What I wanna do now is to take you with me to a beat making session, and then we'll see, I think aloud, the main problems that I see with the interface of Logic Pro for iPad. So let's go. So now that we are here with the iPad with a couple of MIDI controllers, and things are not that sleek anymore, then of course I could remove them, but I want to show you a few features that you can use with external MIDI controllers. So I have a mouse just so you see what I'm clicking. So let's go out and let's start a new project. You start a new project by pressing that, and then now that we are on a tracks, then it's gonna ask us to choose between a MIDI track, audio track, pattern. So let's start with a MIDI track, and then by default it's gonna go for a E piano. Here, when you create it, you have your keyboard, but of course you can hide it just by pressing this button right here, and then you can just use this keyboard. So I'm gonna put a few chords in, and then we'll build from there. So as I said, this is like a full-on audio workstation. You have here Logic Pro, and you just work on a timeline just in the same way that you would work if you are in Logic Pro for Mac. So if we press record, then we can record. That's fine. We can go with that. By double clicking here, you activate the loop, and then so then I want to edit these MIDI events, right? So if I'm with the finger, I just double click it, and then I click on edit, and then show in editor. Or you can also hide and show the editor by pressing this little pencil right here. Okay, so now let's say I want to quantize it. First you will have to like long press or double click or right click. So I'm gonna select all of them, and then you need to go to the inspector here, and then yeah, just time quantize. Let's say time quantize again, and then it will quantize it for you. But you know, that's like a couple of clicks that you need to do. And if you're working on your iPad, that's something you want to do quickly, right? You don't wanna click 3 or 4 times just to do that. So that's what I mean. Like, the workflow is nice as long as you are in the Logic Pro desktop mindset. But the moment you wanna be fast, which I think working on an iPad, I think that's what it is about, then I think it falls a little bit short. Let's say we want to add a bit of reverb. Let's add some reverb. Stop this. Then, as you see here, things start getting a little bit too cluttered. So you're gonna wanna hide the things that you're not using. So we wanna hide the MIDI events when we bring this up. However, sometimes, you know, like, you need to be very conscious of hiding or showing things, because otherwise things will get messy. Like here I have literally everything, and actually I have everything and nothing because you can't see nothing here. So try to have open only the things you're using, and I think it would be nice if Apple will find a way to make this a little bit more seamless, because sometimes you don't hide things until you feel like everything is too cluttered. So again, let's add some reverb. We use a chroma verb. If we double click it, then we go into the settings of that plugin. Let's, for example, change a preset. So, I don't know, let's go for reflect. Bit more delay time. Now I'm gonna show you where I think the real advantage, or one of the best features in Logic Pro for iPad. Let's create a new track. Let's select here. We're gonna go for the presets navigator. Let's go for drums, and now let's go for, let's say, electronic. And now all of these are like drum sets. So let's go for this lo-fi funk, and now we're gonna add a pattern region. And I think this is one of the things that are best implemented in iPad, because now if you click on edit, then you have here the full sequencer, and I think it kind of looks amazing. Like, if you make the full screen about the sequencer, I mean, of course with the keyboard it's not as nice, but with the touchscreen it's kind of amazing. So it's super easy to just you know, add things, you know. And now, like, you have a drop down menu where you can pretty much add a bunch of settings for every step. You know, like, it makes these things very fun to play with. Let's increase the tempo. Let's, like, for example, decrease the chance here a bit. Let's, for example, repeat this one a couple of times. I mean, this is just so fun. gonna adjust like a bunch of things. And make like super dynamic sequences. I mean, this is just nice, isn't it? Okay, so that's one of the things where I think Logic Pro for iPad makes sense. You know, things are quick. It takes a lot of advantage of the touchscreen. It makes it super fun to use. However, I mean, it's not the whole Logic Pro for iPad is not like that. Now let's go for another feature that I really like. This is session players. Now that we have kind of a sequence going with chords and a bit of percussion, we might want some bass, right? So the first thing you want to do for that is to select the chords, then right click, and now you go to chord and then analyze chords. When it's analyze the chords, it's gonna say, okay, these are your chords, if you see it overlaid here. And now you wanna go again to chords and say apply region chords to chord track, and then you just go for that. And you know, like if you go again and analyze the key signature, then it's gonna change the project signature to the one that you were actually working on, because by default is C major as you see here, but this is not C major anymore. So now if I say yes, it will change it to whatever it thinks that I'm using. So in this case, it thinks that I'm on B minor. You know, it just went for that. And why am I telling you this? That's because if you create a new track, we're gonna create it using this button. Then we go for session player, we can go for bass player, and then it's gonna analyze all of these chords and it's gonna follow them to create a bass line that actually fits well with the chords that I played. So I think that's pretty neat, especially to test out different ideas. And here there's a bunch of things that you can change. So we can, for example, change the session player. So we can, I don't know, let's go for disco slap or anything. It kind of, I think it got stuck. Okay. So this actually happens with Logic Pro sometimes. There is some hiccups, so it's not a super bug-free experience. Although I gotta say that it's way better now than at the beginning. At the beginning it was kind of unusable. There were times where it would crash whenever I was doing something, but now it's kind of better. It has some kind of hiccups, but it ends up working most of the times. So let's see what it came up with. This is nice. And we can edit like a bunch of parameters. So this is bass players. The mixer in Logic Pro for iPad is pretty good, honestly. It's of course not as good as the Logic Pro for Mac, because the buses and the routes and the routing is not as easy to see at first glance, but I think it's a very nice mixer. So what I want to do now is to lower the volume a bit on the bass player and possibly on the percussion. Then we have like all the power that you can imagine for a DAW workstation, for a digital audio workstation. Like for example, like I could add an arpeggiator here. There's a bunch of arpeggiators that I could add. If I again go to the settings of this channel and I go to MIDI effects, I'm gonna have the arpeggiator, but I also have AUV3 support, which is huge if you are into that. Again, it's giving you the sensation that you have more than you actually have, because it's not VST, and there are very good AUV3 plugins. But if you start a project here and then you move into Logic and you're using AUV3 that are not compatible with Mac, then it's kind of pointless to use them. So I always try to stick to whatever Logic has, even though, you know, sometimes I will want to use a plugin. Again, you can, like, for example, export to audio before you export to Mac. But at some point you say, why don't I just work on Mac? I am using a mouse, I'm using MIDI controllers. I mean, what's even the point of using the iPad anymore? So that's a bit of the feeling that I get with Logic Pro for iPad. But again, like, it's fun to use. But just the fact that it's a subscription model, it kills me to actually keep it. I want to find something like a pad. This navigator, by the way, is quite nice. If you press here, you can expand it. I mean, you can find things quite easily, I think. So those are some of my feelings with Logic Pro for iPad. I think it's kind of what we would like ourselves to like. You know, there is this thing that I feel sometimes that it's like, oh, I would like to be this kind of person who takes notes for every thought they have their ideas organized. Or I would like to be this kind of person that always puts the keys on the right place, or that, you know, whatever. Like, there are things that you would like yourself to be like, but you are not like that. So I think with Logic Pro for iPad is not that different. There are times where we'll say, I would love to have my iPad just sit on the sofa, make some music, whatever. And then when you actually do it, you feel like, oh, but I'm missing my keyboard. Oh, but I'm missing my launchpad. Oh, but I'm missing this, or I'm missing that. I want to do some finger drumming. And then you need another device. And then you're not in the sofa anymore. Now you're back in the studio. And then you're thinking, okay, so why am I using the iPad? So that's a bit how I feel like. We would love to love it, but I don't know. It's just... I think a much better approach for something like this is something like Ableton Note is doing. You have like a watered down version of Ableton in your iPad, and it's great to come up with ideas, which is what you're gonna do in the iPad. And once you're done with that, then you can move into Mac, and then things are easier. But I will gladly trade 30% of the functionality here for 50% more speed and more quickness to do the things that I normally do when I'm coming up with ideas. I probably don't want to master here. So I have like mastering plugins, but why do I want them if I don't want to master anything here? So with more power comes more responsibility, with more features come more complexity, and I feel like Logic Pro for iPad is too complex to be usable and too watered down to be like a serious production tool. So it's kind of in a middle ground where if you want to make it your mainly and your one driver is not enough. And if you wanted to have like a quick coming up with ideas and all of that, then it's too complex. So it's kind of in that middle ground where you think, why am I using this? So yeah, those are some of my feelings with Logic Pro for iPad. I hope this video is useful to you. You're welcome to subscribe to my channel if you want to. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.